I'm on a bit of a mission right now to find the perfect portable SSD before our trip to CES. Now, when I mean perfect, it doesn't mean performance. Price will factor heavily into this too. And my first stop in the search was a few weeks back when I reviewed the Samsung T3 portable SSD, and after performing various synthetic and real-world tests, I concluded in one single try that I had found a winner. So this was the drive that was going to come with me when I'm away covering events. But I also mentioned this.
Are there any alternative solutions that might give the T3 a run for its money?
I think this little guy could be it. But before we move on, quick look at our sponsor.
Yuck. Cable Mod Configurator allows you to select only the cables you need with your choice of Mod Flex sleeving that is very flexible or Mod Mesh that is more vibrant. Then you choose your length and color combination. Custom cables just got more custom with the Cable Mod Configurator.
This is the PNY Elite portable SSD. I have the 480GB model that officially costs $250. That's a $50 premium over the T3's 500GB variant. And before you hop into the hate train, remember, I said officially. It isn't all that rare to see this drive going for as low as $150, which isn't that bad at all. Unfortunately, there are only two variants of the Elite, the 480GB and the 240GB model that costs $150 but can also be picked up for as low as $100. Larger capacities that compete against Samsung's massive but super expensive 1TB and 2TB versions haven't been rolled out yet, but aside from the premium price talk, can this drive perform closer to or even better than the T3? From a physical standpoint, the PNY SSD has a much smaller footprint than the T3. In fact, I couldn't believe that they were able to cram a 480GB module inside this tiny form factor. Here's a shot comparing it to a flash drive. It can easily fit into your pocket, your wallet, or even a carry-on bag without taking too much space. The enclosure is made out of aluminum and it feels rock solid. This should technically complement shock resistance, even though PNY doesn't market anything about that. I wanted to point out that the sides of the drive are covered in plastic, and on my sample, they weren't sealed properly, which resulted in some movement when plugging in the cable and removing it off the drive. That's definitely something to be mindful about, especially when you consider Samsung's T3 didn't exhibit any quality issues. This SSD comes with a USB 3.0 standard micro B 10-pin port compared to the 3.1 Type-C standard on the T3. Now remember that Samsung's interface is USB 3.1 Gen 1, so its actual transfer speeds are identical to USB 3.0. I prefer Type-C over this interface because it's reversible no matter how you plug it in, whereas you can't do that on the PNY SSD. Another interesting add-on to Samsung's portable SSD is that you can easily transfer files to and from a compatible Android phone that supports Type-C. But speed-wise, the PNY Elite SSD should meet the 450 MB per second spec under ideal conditions, provided your system supports the UASP protocol. PNY also includes a free copy of Acronis data protection software that you can install on your PC and utilize the SSD for backup, so that's a bonus. So let's start with synthetic benchmarks. Using the Crystal DISKMARK to test large file size transfers, the T3 gave us better numbers overall with much better read performance of about 7% and just slightly higher writes. Moving on to ATTO benchmark that tests smaller file sizes, the PNY SSD performed marginally better on the right side with identical read numbers. Onto some real-world tests, I transferred a 63GB folder packed with 4K videos back and forth between the computer and the drives. Starting with the T3, that whole folder took 2 minutes and 45 seconds to transfer to the desktop, averaging between 370 to 390 megabytes per second read. Performing that backwards took 3 minutes and 30 seconds because the write speeds were topping at around 300 megabytes per second. The PNY SSD took the same time transferring the folder to the desktop, averaging the same speed, but performing that backwards wasn't that impressive. You see, for a few seconds, the drive averages 240 megabytes per second, but then it dips to 95 megabytes per second for the rest of the transfer, which resulted in about 7 minutes to complete the task. I rebooted the computer, reformatted the drive, plugged in multiple times, and even tried a different port, and the test yielded the same results. A bit awkward. Now, to investigate this a bit further, I rendered a 7-minute 4K video using Premiere Pro CC 2017 and set the destination to these drives. The results? Only a 6-second difference with the T3 leading here. So I think it's safe to say that the PNY SSD still holds up pretty well with the write tests if you're transferring small-scale files. So what could be happening here? It could be that the drive's cache is being used up in the first few seconds of transfer, and after that the NAND is left to fend for itself, lowering performance over time for larger transfers. So I'm going to leave you guys on this note. The PNY portable SSD is a fast drive. The smaller footprint compared to the T3 is amazing, but I would be extra careful lugging this thing around since the risk of losing it is quite high. It is that small. As for performance, the T3 still holds its value and speeds, plus the extra 20 GB of space can come in handy at times. At the end of the day, it still comes down to preference. If you find the PNY SSD for a cheaper price than the T3, go for it. I still cannot comment on the reliability factor of this SSD since it's fairly new to the market, and I hope to make a follow-up video regarding that. What are your thoughts about this portable SSD from PNY? Did it give Samsung T3 a run for its money? Should I still keep looking for alternatives? Feedback is always appreciated. I'm Ibor with Canucks. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.